It was a rough night of hockey tonight, but it was an enjoyable night of hockey, and I have to say the two games that I recommended this morning and said these games should be a lot of fun, they were. They both went to extra time. They both ended up being a lot of fun. Um, had no idea halfway through the San Jose Vegas one would end up being as much fun as it was to watch. But we're going to start things off with a game that's very one-sided, and yet it's a game that's very spirited. So we're going to talk about this. Boston at home against Washington. Vanacek versus Halak. Bruins wearing their thirds. And you know what? In terms of jerseys, those thirds have grown on me over time. They really have. I think they look really sharp. Bruins had a 3-on-2 that misfired. Tentative first 5 minutes. No indication of the other 55 to come. McAvoy exited after a hit. Things get kind of scrummy. Caps throwing hits early. McAvoy would return. The shots were 3-1 for the Caps at 7 minutes. So, they're getting the majority of the shots early. They're getting the better chances. And they're throwing the body. They were playing a heavy game. They came out with a game plan. They had no idea how this was going to turn out. Halak denies Sherry as the Caps press. The Caps kept up the pressure, and it felt a lot like the last game between these two teams, where Washington allowed 2 shots in the first period against Boston. Vanacek stopped a Pasternak shot. Eller had a tip that was denied. Ovi then shot wide. And then Marchand, he scores from Bergeron and McAvoy at 14-21. And that line had a great night. McAvoy had a great night after being out of the game early. Power play for the Caps, that then gets killed off. And then on the exact same play, first off, Wilson kind of roughs up Frederick. So we had that exchange between Trent Frederick and Tom Wilson towards the end of the last game. And Wilson did what we could have expected, which was go after him. But then, with a minute and a half left, Wilson with a head hit on Brandon Carlo. I'm not going to make the argument for the suspension. If you haven't seen the hit, go look at it. You guys can say whether or not you think it warrants a suspension. I'm going to say it should have been a penalty. I will say that yes, in that case, there were a couple of things they could have called there, and yet they didn't. There was no penalty. The Bruins were very clearly upset when there was no penalty. Brandon Carlo ended up in the hospital. So he may be out for a while. That's concussion, definitely a concussion. It was brutal. And then not only that, but as he goes down from this head hit, he's got, I think it was Vrana that was cross-checking him in the back of the neck. Yeah, the guy's got a concussion. That'll fix it. 2 wrongs make a right. It's like, you hurt your head, well, we'll smack you again, and that makes it better. So we go to the second period. And so the Bruins are already mad. And in between the first and second period, there's an awkward interview with Brad Marchand where he is just openly cursing. They bleeped it because it's recorded, but you could tell he was mad. And so was the rest of the Bruins team because they knew Carlo had gone to the hospital. And Wilson didn't even get a 2-minute penalty. Early Bruins power play, that's killed off. Ovechkin had a chance. He was pushed wide on it. Sherry had a chance to go wide. And then Wilson had a fight with Tenorti. Jared Tenorti, he really endeared himself to the Boston Bruins tonight. And he reminded me a lot of Mark Tenorti. He really did. Throwing some hits, getting in a fight here. This might be the perfect home for Jared Tenorti in Boston. Now, he had some good times with Nashville last year. And then it was a falling out for him this year. Just a numbers game, but so far in 2 games with Boston, I think it's been a pretty good pickup. And then as soon as this fight happens, yeah, Boston they take off. Frederick scores from McAvoy and Smith at 6:43. The Bruins kept pushing. Bergeron scores from Pasternak and Marchand at 9:01. And when they score this one, Marchand made a point of going over to the box where Tenorti was and tapping on the glass like, hey, thanks for that fight. You fired us up. We've got a 3-0 lead. And then Marchand scored from Grzelcyk at 14:58. And at this point, Jack Edwards, every time the Bruins scored, it was just take that, Tom Wilson. In your face, Tom Wilson. That's for Tom Wilson. And it's like, okay. All right, Jack, just relax a little bit here. All right, I understand. I'm upset too. But just call the game. It gets awkward at that point. Like he's just, all of it was Wilson. But it was 4-0. 4-0. Vanacek was out. Samsonov goes in, and it felt more like it was a mercy pull than anything else. I don't know that if Samsonov starts this game that the scoring's any less. Krejci then almost made it 5-0. But we go to the third period. Early in the third, Ritchie, he scores from Krejci and DeBrusk at 1 minute and 5 seconds. And then, another fight. Wilson's in his second fight of the night with Trent Frederick. He scores the takedown, so we'll give him the win on that one. The Tenorti fight I thought was more even. But yeah, so Frederick did drop the gloves with Tom Wilson tonight. Held his own. Yeah, and that was after the 5-0 goal. The Caps then get a power play. It gets 4 shots. The Bruins get a power play of their own. Things are kind of scrummy again at the half. So, who wants to see these teams meet in the playoffs? I know Washington usually makes quick work of the Bruins, but I don't know. Something says coming out of tonight that this could be a really spirited series if that happens in the first round or second round. And then Vrana would break up the shutout from Backstrom and Oshie at 13:36. The Capitals get a late power play. They don't score on it. Their record drops to 13-6-4. Boston goes to 13-5-3, so they pull within 1 point of the Washington Capitals for first place, and they have 2 games in hand. So Boston, really a statement game, and Wilson trying to fire up his team with the hits kind of had the opposite reaction tonight. So we'll see if player safety says anything tomorrow or anything happens. I was surprised there wasn't some sort of penalty. The interesting thing, too, was, again, keep in mind, this is on the Nesson feed. They were talking about, well, it didn't look like it was a charge. And then they go, well, what penalty could you call there? Well, maybe charging. Maybe a head hit. But they pointed out, too, that it seemed to hit the shoulder first. So, again, we'll see what Department of Player Safety has to say about it. And I really think a big part of this is because it's Tom Wilson. It's just like if Marchand throws that hit, we'd be hearing it the other way too. And that's sort of that reputation follows them. Yes, you get that reputation for a reason, but here we are. Boston wins 5-1. More alarming, they now are without Lauzon, Miller, and you can add Carlo to that list. Carlo's a pretty major part of that top 4. So Boston's blue line is being stretched thin. Shots in this one, 12-8 Washington in the first, 10-8 Boston in the second, 12-7 Washington in the third. Final shots, 32-25 for Washington. Power plays, 0-3 for Washington, 0-2 for Boston. Vanacek, 14 saves on 18 shots. Samsonov saved 6 out of 7 in relief. And Halak saved 31 out of 32. Completely escapes the storyline here. Halak had a really good game. And again, with the hit, I wasn't like raging and screaming when the hit happened. I was just worried about Carlo. I legit was like, I hope he's okay. So that's still how I feel about it, and we'll see what happens when they meet again. All right, next up, Tampa Bay and Chicago. And if you watch this game on my recommendation, awesome. I honestly, this game was great. And Chicago, they're turning back the clock, and it is fun to watch. Early chances for Tampa. Subban stopped a Cirelli break, and then moments after that, Cirelli gets the goal anyways. From point and Palat at 2:51. In fact, 3.5 minutes in, the shots are 5-1 for Tampa. So Tampa's in complete control of this game, right? Bolts then get a power play, and they score on it. It's Killorn staying hot from Hedman and Palat at 10:27. And it looked like the Hawks were in danger of a blowout. That after a really close game between Chicago and Tampa, that this one could be an absolute annihilation by Tampa to prove their dominance over their division. Power play for the Hawks, they score on it. And it's DeBrincat with a key point for him. Goal number 100 and point number 200. So kudos to DeBrincat for getting there. Boquist and Kane with the assists at 12:57. Patrick Kane with another fantastic game tonight. So that's 2-1 in favor of Tampa. Momentum for the Hawks after that goal. You could see that their confidence level definitely went up. Late power play for the Hawks. That's killed off. So we go to the second period. Tampa still in the lead. Post for Braden Point on a break. Bolts had the jump again. So first period and second period, Tampa Bay comes out the more energetic team. Subban, though, making some huge saves. Malcolm Subban's had a very good season after a shaky start. Heavy pressure for Tampa Bay, draws a power play. Doesn't score. And then DeBrincat, after that's done, scores from Kane at 7:18. So DeBrincat with a couple of goals, Kane with a couple of helpers. And yeah, it's 2-2. Power play then for Tampa. That's killed off again. Their power play after that power play goal in the first was unsuccessful. Subban made a really solid stop on point. Hedman then gets shaken up. He stays in the game, though. Tampa Bay pressed with 4 minutes left. And then the Hawks had a power play late, which became a 5-on-3. And then in the third period, that power play had overlapped. The second penalty, basically the 5-on-3 ends before the second period's out. And Yanni Gourde with some really good penalty killing. He draws a penalty. It's 4-on-4 for 8 seconds. Then Tampa has a 152 power play they don't score on. However, McDonough scores shortly after that power play's over from Killorn and Johnson at 3:20. And then the Hawks do what they did all night. They're like, fine, we'll answer. They push back right away, and it's Kubalik. Stays hot from Keith and Boquist at 6 minutes. So it's a 3-3 tie. They've been down 2-0, down 3-2. It's a 3-3 tie. This is a different team than the one that Tampa Bay played to start the season. Hedman takes a penalty. He vehemently disagreed with that penalty. He felt that it was not a penalty, and he was very vocal about how it wasn't a penalty. Shen then crashed the net after that power play was over. Suter led a Hawks push with 7.5 minutes left, had 2 very good chances as well. Crossbar for the Bolts. They get a power play. They did press after that power play was over. Could not get a goal. Couldn't get that puck past the glove, the pads of Malcolm Subban. And then Killorn had a chance with 1 minute left. So we go to overtime, and it feels like Chicago has got this game to overtime, even though Tampa's outplayed them pretty badly through the last 40 minutes. In overtime, Kane's denied on a breakaway. So again, Subban, no problem. And then Point went the other way. He had a break, and that was denied. So both goalies exchanging denials here. 1:56 left. Tampa Bay gets a power play. And Zadorov, during that penalty kill, had a stick break. So it was like a 4-on-2.5, but no damage done. They kill it off. And we go to the shootout. And in the shootout, Khrushchev gets the winner for Chicago. They win in a shootout 4-3. They go to 13-7-5. Tampa drops to 16-4-2. And yeah, Chicago, they should be that number 4 seed in the Central with the way they're playing right now. And maybe it'll end up being number 3 in the Central. Who knows? Shots in this one, 11-10 Tampa in the first, 11-5 Tampa in the second, 13-8 Tampa in the third, 5-4 Tampa in the overtime. Great game by Subban. Final shots, 40-27 for Tampa. Tampa goes 1 for 6 on the power play. Chicago goes 1 for 5, so a lot of power plays. McElhinney saves 24 out of 27. Subban saves 37 out of 40. So, yeah, that rough start Subban had, you don't need to worry about it. He's fine. Speaking of fine, reverse retros, Colorado. Yeah, they wore the Nordiques, and it didn't hurt them. Anaheim was wearing their orange thirds. That might have been the prettiest game of the night. So, yeah, the reverse retro versus the Orange Ducks. Early chances for the Avs. Again, I thought the Ducks played a pretty decent game tonight. Shots were 4-1 for the Avs 4 minutes in. Gibson denied Saad. And then there's a play where Kadri yells, "It's in." It's in. So the referee blows the whistle. And yeah, it was across the line. Absolutely. So they took some time to review this one. And I mean, it felt like it went on forever. And they decided puck was in the net, but he contacted the puck with a high stick to knock it into the net, and no goal. And I didn't see a definitive angle on that. So I'm sure there's one that exists. I'm sure one's come out since that game. But again, I watch all the games and I do this review and then I go to bed and get up and do it again in the morning. So, yeah, that goal did not count. Kadri, if his stick had just been a little lower, would have been just fine. And then the Ducks get a power play. That power play becomes a 4-on-4. There's a brief Avalanche power play after that. Last minute chances for the Ducks, and to the Ducks' credit, they score. Henrique from Raquel at 1950. So Raquel on the board again. Second period, 2:22 in, Silverberg gets a goal, and it's one that Grubauer probably would rather stop than have allowed there. It was close to the boards. It was on a bad angle. It was a perfect shot by Silverberg, but It's one of those ones that you want Grubauer to stop. But it was okay because Grubauer had a very good game after that. Grant then nearly made it 3-0, but the Avs would get a power play. They don't score on it, but Nichushkin, must watch my video the other day. Nichushkin, he gets a goal from Donskoy and Saad at 14:46, and the momentum completely shifted after that goal. Saad would score from Jost and Renouf at 17:23. So Renouf on the board with what I believe is his first point in the National Hockey League, or Renouf. I heard both during the game. Renouf and Renouf. And I'm like, all right. So third period, tie game. Hakanpää saved a goal. Went through Gibson. Hakanpää said, all right, here, I'll give it back to you. Shoot it back to his goaltender. Ducks get a power play. That's killed off. Gibson stopped a point shot from Graves. Landeskog had a chance that was denied as well. Jones had a shot, and that it was still tied as Grubauer made the save on that one. 4:01 left. The Avalanche get a power play. Gibson, some big saves there. And I thought Gibson had one of the best games he's had in a while tonight. But we go to overtime. Steele had a chance early that misses high. Early puck control for the Ducks. Raquel had a chance that was stopped. And then the Avs decide it's their turn with the puck and they score. It's Nichushkin. Nice goal by Valar Nichushkin too. This is what he can do. He can get on a run. Maybe it's starting. That was his third and fourth goals of the season from Taves and Saad at 2:45. So Saad with 3 points, Nichushkin with a couple of goals. The Avs win this 3-2. Severely depleted lineup. They win this one. I don't have OT up here, but it was obviously an OT. Severely depleted lineup for the Avs tonight, and they still get it done. So good job, Colorado. And good job winning wearing your reverse retros. That's against a team that wasn't. That's nice. Shots, 10-9 Colorado in the first. 13-9 Colorado in the second, 9-9 in the third, and then in the overtime, Colorado outshoots them 3-1. Final shots, 34-28 in favor of the Avalanche. Power plays, Anaheim 0-2, Colorado 0-3. Gibson saves 31 out of 34, Grubauer 26 out of 28. Very good game. It was. I'm honestly, I'm loving all this playoff hockey, which is what it feels like, including Minnesota. Minnesota's getting ready for some playoffs here. So every team in the West was playing again tonight. I think the schedule, again, I think it's great to see every team in the division playing in any given night. Obviously, the Canadian division with 7 teams kind of mucks that up. But it's nice to see this where all 8 teams are in action at the same time. And for Minnesota, clearly they had a chip on their shoulder. Early chance for them, and Zuccarello would make it 1-0 from Kaprizov at 4:27. So that's a 1-0 lead. Power play then for the Wild. Ronta denies Eriksson Ek. Ronta, not his best save percentage tonight, but I think Minnesota, they just sniped the puck very well. Wild press at 7.5 minutes. The Coyotes look kind of sloppy in their own zone at that point, and that was definitely a storyline tonight. And then Hunt scores from Greenway. Nice point shot from Hunt, goes in. 13 minutes and 18 seconds into the first period. First period, it's 2-0. And then not long after, a little over a minute after, Bukestad makes it 3-0 from Kaprizov and Zuccarello. Yep, these guys are hitting again. 14-27, and what an amazing pass by Kaprizov. Kaprizov and Zuccarello were playing two-man just total game control. They were keeping the puck away from Arizona. You could have done like Harlem Globetrotters music. It was insane. 4 minutes left. We have 3 goals by the Wild and 3 shots by the Coyotes, showing how dominant the Wild had been to that point. There's a late power play for the Coyotes. They would get some shots before the period's out, but it's still 3-0 Minnesota after 1. Second period, early. Greenway scores from Foligno and Brodin at 5:08, and it was a beautiful breakaway goal. So Foligno stays hot. Greenway gets another goal. And good luck Ronta with stopping that. Post then for Spurgeon as the Wild continued to press after it was already 4-0. There's no mercy here because there shouldn't be. They know they desperately need this win here. Pitlick then had a chance to deflect it out. The Wild get a power play. They had chances, no goals. Their power play... here's the weird thing with Minnesota power play. In general, it looked pretty good tonight. No goals. But it did. It looked pretty good. And eventually the power play, I think, is going to come around. We're seeing signs with St. Louis. Theirs is coming around. I think eventually Minnesota's does as well. that just it's too talented with Zuccarello and Kaprizov on it. It's just too talented. Coyotes then get a power play. That was killed off as well. Third period shots were 2-0 Wild at 3 minutes. So that's notable because you're like, okay, so how are the Coyotes going to come out knowing they're down? This was a game that was very favorable to Minnesota. The Wild played keep away at 4 minutes, and then Arizona would get a goal. Keller from Osterley and Hjalmarsson at 4:59. So that made it 4-1. Power play then for the Wild. The Coyotes would get a power play as well. They just exchange on both teams. Not successful. And then Fiala scores at 18:46 to put the exclamation point on it. And your final score is 5-1. Minnesota goes to 13-7-1, the exact same record as Colorado. Arizona 10-10-3. So in this division, things are really separating between the top four and the bottom four. Sure seems to be the case anyways. Shots 9-6 Minnesota in the first, 12-9 in favor of Arizona in the second, 9-7 Minnesota in the third. So final shots 27-25 in favor of the Wild. Power plays Minnesota 0-4, Arizona 0-3, and they'll have their rematch tomorrow night. Kakkonen 24 saves on 25 shots, continues this really good run that he's been on, and Ranta 22 saves on 27 shots. Rough night for him, rough night for the Coyotes. But hey, if you're a Wild fan, they're back on the winning side of things. That being said, I do need to change boards. All right, so St. Louis and LA. This is a very good matchup as well. This was a game that did turn out to be pretty darn entertaining. And for St. Louis, I do think that they should come out of this game saying, all right, we stole one. We got to make sure we don't need to steal another one. And yeah, for the Kings, I would imagine they come back with quick for the next one. And we'll see how things go in the next matchup between these two teams. So early boot Blues power play, and they score on it. Perron scores on that power play from O'Reilly and Shen at 2 minutes and 8 seconds. Ryan O'Reilly had a very good game. His face-offs, he was, I think, over 60% for the game in the face-off circle, and that was key for St. Louis tonight. Husso then robbed Brown. Might have been Husso's best game in the NHL tonight, actually. Shots were 8-4 for the Kings with 7.5 minutes left. They get a power play, but they leave the first period down by 1. So they outplayed St. Louis, but they're down by 1. Second period, Peterson with a stick save on Blaine. There's a power play for the Blues. That's unsuccessful. The Blues power play, though, like I said, it gets the goal in the first period. They don't just score against Anaheim. Maybe Anaheim was that boost they need for the rest of the season. Grundstrom then nearly ties it. Peterson stopped a chance for Krug as Krug tries. I'm pretty sure he's still stuck on one goal. Kings were pressing with 6 minutes left. Great Kings game, no goals. Great game. Fantastic game by LA to this stage. No goals. Blues, no room with the puck. So when the Blues get the puck, there's just nothing out there. And then all of a sudden there was. But we'll get to that point. Carter would score from ANA-COL and Bjornfot at 16:41. And then the Kings get a late power play. So it's a 1-1 tie going into the third. And in the third, Brown scores on that power play from Kopitar at 37 seconds. So Brown continues this amazing run he's been on. Kopitar gets another assist, and it's 2-1 for the Kings. And with how well they were playing defensively to this stage of the game, you might have been right to feel kind of confident about the team at this point that, yeah, they could win this. Score, I thought, reflected the play when it was 2-1 for the Kings. And then they get another power play. Lots of shots early on the power play, but 51 seconds later, we go 4-on-4. Peterson stopped a chance for Hoffman. Husso denied Kempe out of the box. So again, you got to watch that guy coming out of the box. Perron then nearly ties it. Shots were 7-5 for the Kings 11 minutes into this. ANA-COL then suicide dove into the boards. It was ugly looking. He stayed in the game, but man, it's one of those things where you're going full speed, full bore. Boards are right there. I've skated. I know how that... And I've never been anywhere near as fast on skates as ANA-COL, and it hurts. And it's embarrassing, too, because people see you do it, and you're like, oh, did I just fall? Oh, I did. I crashed into the boards? Yeah, I did, too. Damn it. So the Blues press. The Kings get a break. The goaltender gets pulled with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left for St. Louis. Shen hit the outside of the net, and it looked like maybe LA was going to escape with this. LA had chances at the empty net, couldn't get the shot on the net. And then it goes the other way, and it's Perron with his second of the game from O'Reilly and Hoffman at 1916. And we go to overtime. The Blues, they get a power play. They don't actually get that power play because while it's a delayed call, Hoffman puts it in the net from Krug and O'Reilly at 1 minute and 30 seconds. The announcers were pretty sure the Kings were going to get called for too many men on the ice. But we didn't know at the time, and it doesn't matter. During the delayed penalty, while they're 4-on-3, St. Louis gets the goal. So they win this one 3-2 in overtime. They go to 14-8-2. The Kings drop to 9-8-5, and that hurts. Because, again, they've seen Minnesota win. They've seen Colorado win. Now St. Louis. And then over here, we'll get to Vegas, off to the greatest start they've ever been on. And so for the 4 teams at the bottom of the West, you've already got to look at this and say, at what point do these GMs say, all right, so we're going to be sellers now and get what we can now? Because, we're not in this right now. It just doesn't feel like it. All right, shots in this one, 12-6 LA in the first. 8-5 LA in the second, 10 shots apiece in the third. In the overtime, St. Louis gets 1 shot, the shot that matters. Final shots 30-22 for LA. Power plays 1 for 3 for St. Louis, 1 for 4 for LA. Husso saved 28 out of 30. Cal Peterson saves 19 out of 22. It's a shame about the overtime goal because up until then he'd saved 18 out of 21. Or 19 out of 21. Anyways, but yeah, that's just the way that goes, and we'll see whether or not the Kings win the next matchup between these two teams. But that was entertaining. Speaking of entertaining, tonight it's reverse retro for the Sharks, which meant that you had teal on gray, which the Vegas announcers stated it's hard to read. And it is. It's really hard to tell who has the puck during these games. It's another one of these jerseys that they've designed, and I don't know that they tested it for TV. This is something you should be doing when you're coming up with jersey designs. And it just feels like they didn't do that. There are a number of the reverse retros that, I mean, in person and up close, you could see who they are. But from a distance and on TV, there's not enough contrast there. Teal on gray is just not enough. So Dansk was starting for Vegas. Oscar Dansk has not started a game in a while. I got to say, it's retro night for San Jose, and Vegas answered with, oh yeah, we'll put in a goalie we had in our first year and relive that. And then through their first 20 games, they ended up with a better record than they had in their first year. So the gaudy record of the Vegas Golden Knights continues to be exactly that. Early shots for the Sharks, then there's a power play for Vegas. That's not successful. However, Smith would score shortly thereafter from Carlson and Marchessault at 5:48. That is Smith's first goal in 11 games. And you could tell he was very relieved that went in the net. We'll see if he gets hot. Stevenson would then score from Stone and Pacioretty at 7:03. So in 1 minute and 15 seconds, it's 2-0. The Sharks get a power play. No shots for the Sharks power play. We then get a power play for the Vegas Golden Knights, which is unsuccessful. San Jose gets another power play before the end of the first period. That was unsuccessful as well. So yeah, it's 2-0 for Vegas after one period. We go to the second, and Pacioretty from Martinez at 2:57. And that was the end of the night for Martin Jones. In goes Devin Dubnyk. So Jones, who has had games where Vegas kind of makes his stats look bad, that happened to him again tonight. No shame in that, because Vegas does this to a number of goaltenders. Power play then for the Sharks after that. There was a crossbar for Burns. They're like, crossbar. And within, I want to say 15 seconds, the horn sounds. When the horn sounds during the play and it ends it means that's a goal. So as soon as that happened, I put the Sharks logo on the board and power play goal Burns, because I knew. And so at 6:03, Burns makes it 3-1 from Donato and Meyer. It hit the net camera and bounced right back out. I totally understand referees in real time not knowing that it actually went in the net. I honestly, those pucks move so fast. I get it. It's sort of like the linesman that missed the offside calls, and people go, how can they miss that in real time? I totally get it. I really do. So Dansk denies Donato shortly after that, but the Sharks get a power play. There were no shots during that power play. San Jose's power play was frustrated for a large portion of tonight, though they did get the power play goal here. Nieto, though, he scores from Carlson at 12:43. Feels like Erik Karlsson's starting to get some points. We'll see if that actually translates to some better results for the San Jose Sharks as we go through this season. The Sharks were going for the tie that next shift too. Like they just pounced on Vegas. Power play then for Vegas, that's killed off. And then with 2:03 left, Vegas with another power play. So I was thinking, San Jose's really playing with fire here. They're down 3-2. They've got to stop taking penalties. So we go to the third. Vegas 8-0 when they're leading after 2 periods this season. So very confident when they have the lead. Reeves and Gabriel had a fight at the opening. So this dates back to the pregame tonight, where Gabriel and Reeves were having a little chat. I'm not sure what was said, but clearly this was set up during that. And they would be back on the ice together after the fight, and I kind of thought, are they going to go for another one? They didn't. Reeves won the fight, made a big deal of it when he did, and then Tuck scored a goal 26 seconds later from Carrier and Colasar at 26 seconds. So it worked. He fired up the team, and he seemed to be quite excited about it. Vegas was in total control, 2-goal lead, and San Jose looked done until Couture scores from Carlson and LeBanc at 6:23. And the Vegas announcer said, and yeah, there could have been a goalie interference challenge in there for a call that wasn't made, but Peter DeBoer, while he didn't look happy, he didn't challenge it. So we drop the puck and keep going. So this is where, during this game, the video starts flickering really bad on my TV and it's a Sportsnet feed. Like, it's not just cable. Sportsnet feed was just, for me, skipping a lot. And it was where it would freeze every 10 seconds, and then it starts flickering, and then the screen was going black, and I'm like, seriously. Eventually it cleared up, but it's kind of a pain. It's like, oh, okay, so a picture every 3 seconds. That's great. Dansk stopped a good chance for Leonard. So Dansk, through 2 periods, they talked about how Dansk looked pretty good for a guy who hadn't played a game in about, 3 years in the NHL. Vegas was pressing with 7 minutes left, and then San Jose gets power play with 4:51 left. Donato hits the post, and it felt like, well, that's San Jose's luck. And then Dansk robbed Marleau. The power play ends, and yeah, this game looks like it's done. But on a WTF, I don't know if I want to call it a turnover. It was a play by Dansk. He plays the puck, and he plays it right to LeBanc, and it goes in the net. It's one of those bizarre plays. LeBanc gets it in the net. Burns and Couture with the assists at 18:53. That tied it up at 4. And I'm sure that for Dansk, it was one of those what just happened moments. And to Vegas's credit, when this happens, their players respond the way you should. Our goalie allowed one that didn't make him look great. Let's go out and get the next one. That's how you should respond. And not every team does. So we go to overtime. Puck control was for Vegas after an initial shot by San Jose, and Pacioretty would score from Stone and Pietrangelo at 1:25. This is becoming a very standard trio to be out there. Vegas wins this one 5-4 in overtime. They go to 15-4-1. San Jose drops to 8-10-3. Again, at home, these games they really need to win. They're not winning them, and it just feels like the wheels have kind of fallen off for the Sharks, although they got close tonight. Shots, 9-6, San Jose in the first, 12-11, Vegas in the second, 8 apiece in the third, and then 1 apiece in the overtime, 29-27 for San Jose. Power plays, Vegas 0 for 4, San Jose 1 for 5. Dansk saves 24 out of 28, and they bailed him out. Jones saved 5 out of 8, and then Dubnyk went in, and Dubnyk was better, saved 17 out of 19. I think Dubnyk starts the next game, and we'll see if the result ends up being any different. But that was a fun game too. So yeah, we have to do the preview tonight because there's 4 early games tomorrow because it's Hockey Day in America. So look forward to that preview before I turn in for the night. Let me know your thoughts regarding these games. The Wilson hit. What did you think? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.